Okay, we're good.
We're good to go?
Yeah.
All right. Uh, well, I appreciate you going through all the questions and taking some detailed notes.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. And like I think I went like really detailed because a lot of these I was like drawn from personal experience. So I put like certain things that I may or may not actually be comfortable talking about when once you ask the question, but I put it there in case I do want to go over it.
All right. So you let me know. Okay, so yeah, the first question I had was like, I don't know, racism seems like such a big issue. Like,
Yeah.
how do I as one person like do anything about it?
I
Uh,
think
yeah.
yeah, no, I think that's a good question to like kind of start off. I like the approach that a lot of people have been taking on social media and just kind of taking the time to like actually like educate yourself, understand your privilege as, as like I know that that seems like it's something that's been repeated over and over and over, but like I definitely think that that's one thing that's key in all of this. So I mean, I feel like a lot of people have been sharing like different resources, whether it be just articles you can read up on, books, videos on systematic racism and oppression and stuff like that. Just kind of getting an understanding
Yeah.
um, of stuff. I think that that's key. And then once you have like an understanding and you can kind of like see what's going on, then it's a lot easier for you to take more action in your own life, right? But it's kind of hard for someone to go and take action and not be racist or not do like certain things that aren't like morally or like socially correct. So yeah, that's I think the first step I take is trying to understand.
All right. Well, you recommended the book about Trayvon Martin, what happened to him, Rest in
Yeah,
Power.
yeah, that's a good one. I feel like I've told you about that book actually before,
Yeah, you
but
have.
that was actually the first book that I read that was like a memoir on like someone that's like kind of dealt with racial injustice and police brutality especially. Um, so yeah. Anyways, I read that. That was probably when was that? Like when I like my second year of college, so a couple like 3 or 4 years ago now. But for me, that was like um, eye opening in the sense that like really made me realize that there was more to racism than just like saying like hurtful things to someone, because I think that that's what a lot of people um, do think is like if you're racist you're just someone that like calls people the n-word all the time, or you're just saying like crazy stuff, or you treat someone a certain way when you see them in person. And I think that it's a lot bigger than that, and that book really does a good paints a good picture of that. um, it goes in depth about like what kind of a person Trayvon was, and like where he grew up, the area, and like it just kind of like paints a picture where it's easy for you to put like see through his perspective and then kind of draw a parallel, like what if this same situation happened to someone who wasn't of colored skin. And then I think another like sad part in that book that like really hit me was like when all of that stuff, the situation happened where he was shot by Zimmerman. He it was all like he was on the phone with one of his friends actually, a girl who was like his age who he was talking to or whatever. And she heard a lot like the tussle and like him saying like, "Oh, I'm being followed by this person," and she was on the other line like just kind of freaking out or whatever the case was. But um, in the book, they shared like the experience in court and what it was like for her when she had to share her side of the story and what she heard and stuff. And she couldn't, and she came off as like this like totally abrupt, unprofessional, scary person, because that's unfortunately like just the way that she was like kind of brought up. She couldn't get her messages across clearly. She couldn't contain herself and be like super casual about describing what happened, and that kind of boils down to like this is a lot bigger than that, like just direct things that happen on a daily basis. This is from like years and generations of people not getting the same education, not being around. Do you see where I'm kind of going with that?
Yeah.
So so that was, I think, the first book that like really painted that picture for me, and I was like, oh, okay, like, this is a lot bigger than I had initially thought. And I mean, look, like I'm a person of color, and I can admit that I was late to really realize that kind of stuff. So yeah, just try to get an understanding.
Yeah. Uh, I've done a couple times. I can't remember when I first did it, but there's this implicit bias test you can take that like Harvard does for race and different things. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't. That sounds cool though, because bias is definitely, that's, I think that's what a lot of it is bias and stereotypes that you have growing up. But yeah, sorry, you can keep going on about that. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, like I was gonna say it was eye-opening to me because I think what it's trying to show is that, well, people might not think they're racist, and to your point, like most people are not the type of people who I hope that most people are not the type of people who would um like say racist things, like say the N-word to someone. But there might be like some of those people, although they might not say it, they might have like implicit biases or unconscious biases that they're not even maybe fully aware of, but that still matter and still have an impact.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's very true. And I think that kind of ties to the whole situation with the lady in court trying to like talk about the Trayvon thing. It's like the people, like the judge and the people that were a part of that whole process. You know, they hear like what to them is slang and like language that they might not be used to hearing. They're like, what is this? Like, what is this person talking about? They, what they're saying must or might not be significant. Or so yeah, bias is definitely a big thing. I'd like to even take that, and I think that that's probably a resource that should be shared with a lot of people, because to your point, um, yeah, yeah, that's an interesting one. Implicit bias test. Implicit
Yeah,
bias test, is that what it's called?
yeah, yeah. Um, it was eye opening to me because like essentially it said that I have an implicit racist bias, right? Which you never want to hear, but um, essentially what it does is it shows you pictures of African American people and European Americans, so black and white people, and then it also has like words that are associated with good or bad, like happy or sad or angry or peaceful, and you have to press keys on your keyboard really quickly, and pretty much based on like how slow your reactions are. I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but essentially if you have more like if you're slower to associate like like good with black people than you are with white people, those words, then it'll tell you like how bad your implicit biases and stuff.
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, I know you pretty well. I know that you're definitely not like a racist person, but I mean, I think that a lot more people than the general population would think would have that like implicit bias, like you said you had, and it's just something that kind of goes unnoticed or doesn't. You just don't realize that it's a thing because it seems so normal to you. It's your reality. Um, so yeah, that's interesting. I'd even like to take that.
Yeah,
And I
I'm
think that
curious.
that actually kind of ties to one of the notes that I was that I had listed. And this was like years ago, like so long ago. I was like downtown with my friend, and we ran into this guy, and he was, I can't remember how he even started talking about it. But anyways, we ended up getting to a conversation about being black, and he had mentioned like all of the like negative connotations and stigmas that there are associated with just the color black, outside of like your race, just the color black. and he was saying it, and I remember him like vividly saying like, oh, like think about just initially, and to that implicit bias, like initially when you hear the word black, you like think like the closest things you might think of is like dirty or like, you know, not pristine, old, rotten, whatever it may be. They're not like they're not usually like good things, you know. So that I think that that definitely does tie into that implicit bias.
Hmm. Okay, I want to ask you about what you wrote about the first question. Um, you said take note of little things that you would usually maybe let slip by. Do you mind expanding what you mean by that?
Yeah, I think that, and it's different for everyone. I think it's definitely different for everyone, but I think that there's always situations where people see things that are like not not right, morally right. Um, so like one that I was like able to think of off the top of my head was growing up playing hockey. Like majority of the people that I play hockey with are white people. Um, and like from time to time, like, and I'm gonna be completely honest here, there would be times where they would say things that are like extremely inappropriate. And because you're young and like I was majority of the time the only person on the team, I'm not just gonna go and fight this person or do like act wild, what is, you know, deemed out of place, because then it makes me look a certain way. And when you're young too, and I'm able to like kind of look in hindsight and realize all this stuff, you kind of just want to be like accepted and like cool with everyone, so you let these things just happen. So like names, there was lots of stuff. So like one I'll say, because like it's crazy now that I'm like thinking about it, but it's one in the moment I was like, oh, like so funny, like, you know, and I would just let it be. So there was this one guy and he'd always go, oh, Vin, nigger. That was that
Vin?
was like vin, like vinegar, like
Oh,
the like Vin, like he would say like really quick, and it was like, oh, like, huh?
Jesus.
Yeah. So like obviously I'm not gonna like feed into it and start doing it myself, but like just innate like letting someone do those kinds of things and get away with it makes them feel like, oh, it's fine, it's cool, I can do this. And I think that that behavior slowly but surely escalates and turns into this stuff that like years down the road could be like way worse, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's like that's one thing that I'm definitely not proud of, that I've made a mistake of in my past, but it's a sad reality, and it's I think it happens all too
What are you
frequently.
saying the mistake you made was that you didn't speak up?
Yeah, not speaking up, and I understand that I was young and there's a lot more variables that tie into it, and I can't expect myself to, but it's I think that being aware that that stuff isn't right, and when you have that initial feeling that like, you know, this isn't right, just action it immediately and just say
Yeah.
like stop it dead in its tracks.
Right. What about what you said about trickle effect for change? What does that mean?
Uh, trickle effect for change. Oh, that was for me more like in my personal life, like things that I'm gonna be trying to do. Um, you know, it might not necessarily be things that um, affect like impact or directly affect like hundreds of millions of people, but I think if you're able to like impact this one person, or like that example that I gave you, and like stopping someone dead in their tracks from saying something that's inappropriate and blatantly racist, you know, that could, it sets that person's head straight, and then you never know, years down the road they might have like a touch, like the same interaction with another person, and it keeps going and going and going and going. So I think I wrote like Tupac there because that's one thing that he mentioned in an interview that he had is he used to say like he might not be the person that necessarily like changes the world, but he would like his music to be heard and motivate someone that might have that power to actually go and change that world. So just do your part, I think is really where I was going with that one.
What was the workplace example? Are you able to speak to that or no? It's
Uh,
okay if not.
have you ever heard of that word before?
I don't think so.
I've never heard of that word before. Never in
Someone
my
use
life.
it?
Someone said that to me. Someone said that to me, and I saw it,
In what
and I was
content? In a chat or what?
in a Hangouts chat.
And do you remember the contact? Are you able to
Yeah,
say
yeah, yeah.
like what was?
I'll tell you exactly what the context was. It was trying to close off on a certain project, we'll say, and there was something that was required on their side, and then they said, "Oh, I really hate these things," and I saw it, and I was like, what? What in the world is this? I have never seen this word before in my life. And I was like, okay, the fact that this was said to me of all people is like too coincidental. And then
Did you
I
look it up? Have you? Did it say anything? What that word is?
it's Old English.
Huh?
It's Old English or
But it's
something
a
like
race. It's a racist thing.
I don't I don't know. Me. To pester someone or to be annoyed or uncomfortable in a persistent way. But it's like I have never heard of that word in my fucking life. And of all the people you choose to say that word to, you choose to say it to me. What? So I just let it slide. And again, like this is another example of me just like being so used to this shit and giving people benefit of the doubt and thinking, oh, you know, they're a good person. Maybe they actually use that word all the time. Maybe it's real. Maybe I don't know what they're talking
Yeah, but
about.
it's to your point. It's a little weird given like I've never heard of that word before
Yeah,
either.
no,
So
100%. I agree completely. I didn't share it with anyone from work. I just showed it to my friends, and they were like, "Yo, what in the heck is this?" um, so yeah, I think that with all of this stuff that's going on, not just in the States, around the world, this is a worldwide thing. Um, it's given me the time to like sit back, reflect, and be like, you know what? Like I can do a much better job myself in like directly impacting people that I see slip up. Um, so yeah, that one's beyond me. What's your first take? What's your first take on that? You see
on,
that word,
on
and
that
what do
word,
you think? And you're me. Pretend you're me.
yeah,
Or,
I'd be highly suspicious of what just happened.
but it's like
I'd probably think it's racist because I've never seen that word before. Um, it sounds like the word might not actually have any racist origin, right? But the fact that it's never used, and then to use it like in a conversation with someone who's black or regardless, like it doesn't seem necessary. I don't understand. So
okay. And
I
then
kind of feel like there's a it's very possible that it was a racist thing to say, but maybe it's possible that this person just didn't think at all. But
yeah, yeah,
I don't
no,
know.
100%. And I think another problem too, and this is why I think people are really starting to get um, fed up these days, is because this is at least how I feel. Actioning these items and like actually doing something about it is, I personally feel like a lot easier said than done. You know, because if I, let's just say I did
You
follow
said to
up
them
with,
like, "What do you mean by I've never heard that word before" or something? If you is that what you're saying? If you would have said,
exactly, what if I did call her out? She's like, she does one of two things. Either she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Or she's like, what are you talking about?
right,
Either way, it's it's an uncomfortable position for me. And I feel like, and I shouldn't feel like this. I shouldn't feel like this, and it's wrong that I feel like this, and I'm realizing this. It's wrong that I feel like this. Is I feel like, oh, you know what? What if this ends up being something that's like career limiting for me, or something that escalates and just puts like a bad kind of connotation over my head, and I turn out to be that person that's always, you know what I mean? And that's I shouldn't have to feel like that.
You shouldn't have to feel like
if I do action on things like this, or I do call someone out for something like that, I might be put
yeah,
in a certain box, or viewed a certain way by certain
as
people.
being confrontational or something.
Exactly. And it's like, as much as people like to pretend that's not a real thing, it's a real thing. You know, that stuff can impact your professional career, especially. So
Yeah. Uh, okay, next. Your tweet around VR. What's gonna end first? Racism or VR? So I asked you about that. Where did that thought come from? You were just
I don't
trying to think
even
about
know.
where, like,
I actually don't even know. I just think of the randomest stuff sometimes. I actually have no. I think maybe it had to do with the fact that I was watching Upload, and I was
yeah,
just in like a very like future forward
yeah.
train of thought past couple weeks.
What was the thing
But
you said about filters for messages?
yeah, so just to close off on that for
Oh,
people
sorry.
that may or may not be watching, I think that, and I think that you said you agree, but I think that we'll get to a point in our life where VR will be fully immersive before racism is like completely abolished and it's not a thing, which is like sad to think about. Sad to think
Yeah,
about. The filter thing that I mentioned as well, and this I thought of yesterday when we were talking about like cancel culture and um, how people, I feel like, limit the things that they say because they're um, scared that they like just they can get canceled basically in some so
yeah,
I started thinking like, okay, like we have filters and stuff for Instagram for photos, right?
yeah.
Imagine if we get to a point where we have filters for like captions or like messages that we send, or like
Oh my
just
God.
voice notes or anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, so one thing that I think of off the top of my head is, do you ever use Grammarly?
Yeah,
Okay, when you use Grammarly, it like, if I write like a email to like I'm applying for a job and I'm writing like a CV, and like, not that I'm doing this, not that I'm looking for jobs externally, but let's just say I do this. Let's just say I do this. It shows an emoji at the bottom corner, and it's like nerdy glasses, and then it says like this message sounds like professional.
yeah.
So I mean, we're already at the point where you could recognize like the context of certain messages. What if we get to the point where there's just filters that'll automate that for you and slow down, like, say you have a very opinionated view, but you want to share it to a certain crowd and you don't want to be offensive, you put like a certain filter on it. Anyway, super random thought, but
Are you thinking about this in the context of like dystopian Black Mirror type thing?
yeah, that, and I think it could very well be, like, become a reality.
And so I'm just trying to understand more so like how you think this could be like a really bad thing. Like can you give an example or
I think, well, no, I think it actually might be a good thing, because I think that, I mean, let's just say like, and who knows, let's just say, to my point, you have like a super opinionated view and you want to share it, but you don't want to come off as offensive or risk being canceled, you can put like a certain filter or have something go over it that make like shares that same opinion, but it not be as offensive.
right, right.
That's so yeah, that idea just kind of came off of the whole like um,
Yeah, I can see the good and the bad. The bad is that you could be able to kind of like manipulate people and like use words in a very like I don't know, in some way that this algorithm knows it's gonna influence people more or something.
yeah, see, exactly, you can make something a lot more persuasive than you can put out yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually, like, come to think of it, I feel like there might be a lot more bad and negative things that could come from that. So yeah.
Okay, you wrote a ton of notes, so I wanna ask you, is there any part you want to talk about
Let's,
a lot?
um,
If not, I'll keep going through.
yeah, no, you can keep. Wait, let's see.
Yeah,
You're on the affirmative action one right now, I feel like.
yeah,
Yeah, let's skip that one for now.
okay.
Reddit's co-founder stepping down.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting to see.
I had no idea that that was a thing until you shared that. That's wild. That's good though. I think that's the that's the proactive change that's needed. I was actually I looked it up on or I saw an article on Facebook right after I saw that the note in the Google Doc. And then I was like, okay, let's see what the people think about this. So I clicked view comments, and the comments were saying like, "Oh, this is crazy. I thought you were supposed to hire the best fit candidate for this position." And then I saw like people saying, "Oh, virtue signaling at its finest." LOL. Like just like a lot of them, I was kind of like, oh, "Come on." I think that this guy's genuinely trying to make a change for good, and people are very like way too quick to just shoot it down. And I think that it's necessary. And like, you know what? Maybe there are better fit candidates that aren't of color, but I think if you truly want to like make change, you have to accept the fact that there's going to be um, you might not have the best fit candidate, but you're going to have someone that's going to drive a lot more diversity and the right change that's needed.
Yeah. So you're okay with like kind of virtue signaling, uh, because like you're doing a good thing, right? And does it matter his intent behind it if he's trying to look like a sick guy, or if he like how much does it matter his intention?
Even if he is doing it to be seen as a sick guy, like it's a sick like he's doing a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Like, okay, good job. This guy's trying to like stroke his ego and like flex the fact that he can do these kinds of things. Okay, cool. He at the end of the day, it's a great thing that he's doing. And there's not a lot of other people that are in CEO positions similar to his that would be willing to do that same kind of thing. So
Yeah, I agree.
in my books, it's respectable. I'm all for that.
Yeah, I agree. Uh, so I'm trying to think like how this could relate to me, and I guess it has to do with the affirmative action piece a little bit, like around in the future if I'm ever in a position where I'm hiring people, like thinking through. And you made the comment about like whoever's the most qualified, or some people might say that, right? Which is like the argument against affirmative action. But at least uh, you know, well, you know me and my views on like free will and stuff. So on that stuff, like I have a belief that like your environment and stuff like that has a big influence on how you end up. So like I'm thinking for me, like if there's two, so if there's two candidates, a white and a black person, and if they're if their interview and everything was the same in terms of like how they're standing out in terms of their qualifications, I definitely think I'm hiring the black person for a couple reasons. One is just it's I mean this is I would say like on average they're more likely to have had a more difficult road to where they are today. So the fact that they're performing as well means they're probably more qualified. And then the other thing is like knowing that I have an implicit bias around people that are different than me in general, like I've seen some studies that show like people are most likely to hire and like and feel comfortable with people that look like them, sound like them, like stuff like that. So like um I guess um if if there's two candidates and the black one doesn't, and the person who's black doesn't do as well on the interview and stuff, it's like then there's a difficult thing, I guess, of like how much of a benefit do you give a person if they've had um, more difficulty in life or whatever.
Yeah,
But I do like the idea of affirmative action, because I do think, to me, like equality is, you know, if you have like 1,000 people working at a company, you should have like fair representation of different ethnicities, like genders, everything. Like that's, I feel like that's kind of key to being like fair.
yeah, no, I agree completely. And I think in that sense, especially for um, hiring practices for big corporations and whatever you may have, whatever field it is. Um, I think that it makes sense to, even if the person might not necessarily be as qualified, if you want to like actually drive change uh, internally. So the one thing that I was like kind of thinking about and stuck to me based on what you were saying was like the people relating to people that look like them, sound like them, have the same hobbies, interests, whatever the case is. The only way that you're gonna begin to get more comfortable with that like ambiguity and having someone that's like completely different from you is if you put yourself in that situation and you like just deal with it, right? So I think in that sense, it's 100% necessary. And we're never going to get to that point where we have fully diverse workplaces if we're not willing to kind of take that step back from the like best fit candidate. And I mean, there's a lot of fucking smart colored people in this world. You could find someone that is a best fit. You just gotta look.
Yeah. And yeah, like I think that that'll be like something that I'm going to try to like pay more attention to, like in terms of like it could be in terms of employment, or like for instance, like you said, like this week trying to educate a bit, like there's been like a lot of people sharing good content. Like one thing I came across is like US in jails, well, so something like 40% of people in US jails are black, but only like 13% of the US population is black. So they're
Is
like way overrepresented, which, that's a systemic issue. There's no other way to put it that way. There's no other way to like frame it.
Yeah, no, that's very true, and that's something that I'm very. I like to see that's circulating on like social media, because that's something that a lot of people will see and don't realize is a thing. And that's in the States. Like one thing that my friend was sharing with me was it's a similar story for Indigenous people in in Canada. And it might not be the exact same split in Canada, but I'm sure it's a similar dynamic for Black people as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, that's something that's very scary to think about. I'd actually like to read up on it. I feel like there's like Netflix documentaries about that. I'm gonna have to look into it though for sure.
What were, uh, in terms of like, I asked you like some of the things you've experienced with racism in your life, you shared some of them. And then you were saying like some snarky comments around like sounding white or hair comments or stuff like that.
Yeah, so the hockey was definitely one that one that happened quite a bit. There was a few instances, and like when I saw that, I was actually trying to like think back to certain examples, and then I felt like okay, maybe I'm like not able to think of all of them. So I actually called my mom and I was like, oh, like, is there anything you can think of off the top of my head that's happened to me that's been like kind of like racist or messed up? And she was able to list out a couple. So I think some of them I like low key like repressed or just like kind of
Yeah.
was like, okay, this is weird. Let's not think about that again. One of them, this one I remembered off the top of my head, was growing up. I had these friends, and I went to their house, and then this kid on their street kept saying the N word, kept saying the N word, kept saying the N word. And then these two kids, like the kids that I was hanging out with, were like, oh, come, let's go get them. And these two kids, like literally, were like, yo, Ryan, like, let's go get them. So there was like, we bickered, but we were probably in like grade, like I think this was like grade 3 or 4, something crazy like that. Anyways, I ended up finding out like through like it escalated, and I ended up finding out that apparently these individuals actually told the kid to keep saying that.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that just shows how like that's a really bad example of how like kind of dark people can be. But like at that age, that's not something like you're not listening to rap music and hearing the M word and knowing like the right context to say. That's because you hear that stuff in your house and people that are close to you saying that and referring to certain people as that, and then what kind of repercussions it should have. Like that's bigger than them. That's like, you know, the people that are looking out for them, their guardians, their parents, their whoever they're with. That's on them. That's something that they dropped the ball on that big time. So that's like a really dark one that I was able to think of. Another one that my mom brought up to me was when I was like really young. Like I have no recollection of this one at all because I was so little. But I went to a park, and apparently this little kid kept repeating. He's like, fucking, fucking. And then I didn't know what the hell he was saying. So I go up to my mom, and I'm like, Mom, like he keeps saying like muckle schmooger, muckle schmooger, muckle schmooger, muckle schmooger. And my mom's like, what? Like, what gibberish are you talking about? So she goes up to go talk to who she thought was the parent, but it was like actually like a nanny. And the nanny was also like a minority. And she was like, I'm so sorry, like this isn't my child, I'm just the nanny, he says this stuff. And it's like, yo, this kid is like, I must have been like 3 or 4 or something. I'm a toddler, and this kid's the same age as me, and he's saying this stuff. Imagine the kind of stuff that his parents are saying. At that point, it's just your parents that are saying that for sure. So that's another one.
Yikes.
Yeah, and then snarky comments. I think that happens all the time, and that's like something that I myself can like. I have a direct impact, especially now, to be like, no, this doesn't sit right with me and shouldn't be a thing. So yeah, those are some examples of things that I've dealt with, but that's yeah. There's a lot more to racism and the racial injustice that's going on right now than those like everyday name calling comments and stuff like that.
So I was trying to think about like myself and uh like if there's anything I do like still today that's like maybe not intentionally but is racist. Um well, one thing that came to mind was you asked for feedback. Remember I sent you that website to get like feedback on work, and then you gave it to me. And I remember one of the things I said to you was like around one of like your casual things you say is like true say sometimes, right? And I realized I said to you like, oh, maybe it's too casual. But like I was thinking about it more. I'm like, is that really justified? Like you're not doing anything wrong in saying that. And is that just me not?
So that's a very interesting one. That's an interesting one because I think that, and this is like me. Okay, so there's two things I want to touch on. First off is like I've noticed this myself is that there's certain scenarios where, I'll try to, speak a certain way or be more articulate or whatever the case may be. And I don't think that that's something that I should try to do all the time. I think I should own who I am and the way I talk, and just, it is what it is. If you don't like it, then you don't like it. And there's some weird reason as to why you don't like it. But I think that with that example that you gave, even though it is something that's like a little more casual, I definitely say it too much. So,
Yeah, but at the same time, like I know I say things a lot, like I say fair or something like that. That's something I say a lot. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. I was
but
thinking about it more, and I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. I think that was just me trying to maybe like subconsciously like say like to help fit in. I don't even know.
no, you're right, 100%. Because not everyone. When if I say true say, someone might look at me and be like, what the hell is this guy saying? Like,
Yeah.
what does true say mean?
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, you understand it because you've heard me say it so much. Anyone that I talk to from back home or people that are close to the like they indifferent to it. But in a more professional environment with people that aren't surrounded with the same people that I'm surrounded with, they're feeling like, what is this guy talking about? But yeah, it's a weird balancing act, like with that kind of stuff. And I think that's not something that we can we can hope will change like next year, this year, overnight. That's going to take years and years and years to change. But uh, I think this goes back to what I was saying. Is like I've got to do my best to be proactive and staying true to myself. And if I speak a certain way, then it is what it is. It is
Yeah, I
what it
don't I don't
is.
I don't see any issue with it.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a very good one. And see the way that you were able to like think, like actually like see things in a different perspective and think through like certain instances where like I did drop the ball here and why like maybe this is a little bit wrong. That's the kind of perspective that I think people need to have, to like just kind of take a moment to like actually reflect back, as much as it may hurt you and maybe uncomfortable or whatever. Because think of instances where you've dropped the ball and be okay, can I do better here? Yes, how am I going to do better? And then just action it moving forward.
Yeah. Uh, I want to ask you about the protests. Uh, so you said you haven't attended. Seems very anti-police sometimes, which doesn't settle well with you.
uh,
Um,
yeah, so let me speak to that one real quick.
yeah.
um, so and this is a bias that I have. My grandfather was like an RCMP officer, and he is legend, legend, like such a good guy. So I see like a lot of, it seems like police brutality is like a huge issue. There's a lot of people that are in high places that are doing like terribly, but I also think that like racial injustice and all of these issues that we're seeing is so much like it's more than police. So that's not like the exact reason as to why I haven't went to these protests, but that's one thing that I see, and I'm kind of like, man, I wish it wasn't as focused on this and was more on other things and just kind of the bigger picture. So that's one thing. Also, like I see the videos that they post on Twitter and social like Facebook and stuff that's happening to people, even in Montreal, Ottawa. Like it's kind of scary hours. Like I'm not trying to. Yeah, it's yeah.
What's happening?
Well, I mean, you see the videos of people just like actually like peacefully protesting, and then there might be some person that doesn't have the same agenda and might escalate things, and then you have police officers that are in certain positions that will like hurt you,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's scary. I think that also like with, and not using this as an excuse, but like coronavirus and like everyone bunching up like really close and stuff right now, and how things like it was just like 2 weeks ago that we were like stressing about wearing masks and everything. Everything's still closed down.
Yeah.
Not that that's an excuse, but this is just yeah. I haven't I haven't attended any protests, but I'm doing my best to stay as active and share my views.
Yeah. I like the idea of body cams though, because I like what you said, with great power comes great responsibility. And I also think that power like does or can corrupt when you have power. Uh, like you might not even be aware of it, but you could end up using it in ways like that you didn't realize before you had the power.
It's
Um,
true.
yeah,
Do you know how high the divorce rate is for people for police officers? It's up there.
it's higher than average.
It's higher than average. I think it's even above 50%.
And you're saying it could be because
Because
it gives a sense of power, or
I would think so. I would think so. I would think that that would probably be one, at least one variable. You
yeah, it
know,
could be.
if
Yeah,
you have that same energy within your household and you feel like you could, lead that same authoritative position in your household. Like if that care, and I'm not saying that's exactly what happens, but let's just say that does happen at home with the people that you care about the most and are the closest to you. Imagine how emphasized that is with people that you don't know, or you have like these implicit biases about. That's scary to think about. So yeah, I think that quote kind of summarized it perfectly. With great power comes great responsibility. I think that you for sure need to have a body cam. And like you see people um like let's just say there's a video online and you see it all the time. Someone's recording the situation. Like, why do you have that camera? Well, like, I've seen videos myself. Try to swap the camera out of the hand, turn that shit off. It's like if you're telling someone to turn off that camera, clearly you know that you're not doing something right or you're not
yeah.
going by the book 110%.
Otherwise,
And
you shouldn't have any issue with it.
you shouldn't. If you know you're doing your job, then who cares if you're recorded? So that's my approach. But and I'm surprised. I thought that was a ignorant me. I thought that was a thing in some places, but I guess it's not. So yeah, that's necessary. That needs to be done. ASAP.
Yeah.
ASAP.
Okay,
Have
and
you?
then yeah, you.
Sorry, on that. Have you looked into the like the defunding the police and like what kind of stuff that would like impact and whatnot, or are you familiar with that at all?
Uh, I was watching a video on it last night, and people were advocating for kind of obviously not entirely defunding so that there's no money in police enforcement, but they were saying like maybe taking some money away and repurposing it in other areas, um, like in communities that are primarily black, where maybe they could use more like social support or something like that.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely one of the right steps is to focus on communities that need it the most or need to have these certain relationships built or
Yeah. And then there was a flip argument around, I think some of you were saying like, or maybe it was in this Chris Rock Netflix special I was watching last night, but I think he was saying something like police officers don't, well, yeah, I think he's making a joke, but he's saying he's like police officers don't, like, they don't get paid enough, and that's why we get what we pay for.
I mean, hey, you know what? Maybe that's there's a good point. That's a very good devil's advocate like argument to have, and I think that that's also like maybe an issue. It's like maybe we're just hiring people that have went to school for 4 years to get like a crim or a psych degree, and that's not enough. Maybe we should be holding these people that have so much power to the same standards that like like a doctor or a surgeon. Like you have to go to like school for years and years and be the top percentile of certain people that have this position, and then pay them a crazy amount of money because it's you're in a powerful position. You can end someone's life just as quick as a doctor can end someone's life. That's a that's a big deal.
Yeah, he's got a. Have we talked about it? One of the best kind of jokes he has. Have you watched this special or no?
No, I
Do you,
have it. I
you
have to
like Chris
watch it
Rock?
now. Yeah, I like Chris Rock. He's funny. His voice kills me.
All right, I won't butcher it. I'll let you enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it tonight actually.
Uh, okay, you added a thing around how do people end up with such polar opposite views, and then you said Hodge twin small states. Do you want to talk about that one or not?
Yeah, I just I'm so like okay, so there's these guys that I used to watch on YouTube all the time. You know I'm on YouTube all the time. So these guys are big bodybuilders. They're these huge light-skinned guys. They're in their like 40s, maybe mid 40s, but they look like they're in their 20s. I always thought they're in their 20s. Anyways, I would always watch their videos. They'd give good advice, uh, gym stuff, being a man, all this stuff. So it was probably like last year. I started seeing that they were like posting like more like Trump posts and stuff like that. And then I was kind of confused. I was like, wait, what? I was like, this isn't the same page I used to like look at all the time. But now they are like full out, all lives matter. Black lives is a leftist lie. It's bullshit. This is why. And they are like snapping. And I saw it and I was just like, how does this happen? And that's just basically the question I came up with. And I'm
What's
sure
your theory? Because that just sounds ridiculous to me.
I don't know. I don't know. I think that it's become their truth, their reality. They can't accept that life shouldn't be the way it is right now. That this is strictly me, just like kind of hypothesizing here. I don't
Yeah.
even know. Um, they're from really like southern states,
Yeah.
which is like yeah, I feel like the more south you go, the more like kind of all lives matter views you have. So I mean, maybe that like that's just kind of what's been ingrained in them, and they've gotten to the point where they just own it and can't fathom there being another way of life. I'm not. I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
The all lives matter thing, like I personally don't get. It seems ridiculous to me because obviously like all lives matter. The black using Black Lives Matter does not in any way suggest that all lives don't matter. It's just it's speaking to a group of people that like have had it a lot harder than people who are white generally. Like, obviously
Right.
there are exceptions, but yeah, generally speaking.
And
So
that's the like. And if you like understand that, I don't see how you could not agree with that. Like no matter how south your morals are. So it's
yeah,
like I don't. Maybe these guys are just the type that are like so um, closed-minded and indifferent to hearing other people's opinion, which I would have never thought that they just don't like read up on like what it's truly about and they're completely ignorant to it. I hope that's not the case because if so, you've got to proactively like not look at stuff to not get that view. Another thing that I like thought is like kind of interesting is that they're twins and they're always with each other. So maybe if you always have someone that's like kind of keep pushing the same agenda and bouncing these like crazy ideas, it just gets like worse and worse and worse. I I don't know.
I don't know. You think maybe like they're doing this for like clickbait views and stuff like that? There's
I hope not. I would
there
hope not.
there's one guy, like a fitness guy who I follow and I've been a pretty big fan of. And he posted a video yesterday that said, "Do Black lives really matter?" Three
Stop.
question marks.
No,
I
you're actually
I
blowing my
couldn't
mind.
believe it. Like and I couldn't even watch the video. I jumped straight to the comments. Um and it sounds like it sounds like he's not actually like the biggest racist asshole in the world, but he's just doing it for clickbait. But regardless, I had to unsubscribe from him immediately, and I posted on it like such a disappointing title. Like, what were you thinking? Like, I just don't understand. Like,
So that and you saying that just prompted me to like really think about the Hodge twins and thinking about the people that may have been watching their videos in the past. Maybe these guys are like actually like to your point, they know like exactly who buys into their shit, what their views are, and they're just like 110% dialed into that, and they don't care how crazy their views may sound. They know that they're going to make money off of it. And if that's the case, that's so crazy.
This title, this video left me like in such, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I
Is
couldn't
it
believe it.
so here's a question for you. Was that someone that you like actually watched, not maybe not religiously, but you like
I've
enjoyed
watched
their
a lot of
content?
his videos, yeah, and I've been a fan of him.
It's crazy seeing that stuff, eh? When you can see someone's like be compelled to someone's like content and like find it like helpful or whatever the case is, and then you see like one view and you're like, holy shit, this is not the person I thought that.
Jesus, yeah.
It's
Sad.
yeah, yeah.
How are you for time?
Good. I'm okay. I'm okay.
All right, I'm just gonna run to the washroom.
No worries.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, all good.
All right, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm thinking more about this guy and that title, and I can't believe it. And like I was thinking a little bit about like whether to even watch the video to see what kind of thing this guy's even trying to say, but
Watch it. Watch it. Watch it. Watch it. Watch it. Definitely watch it. I'm
I
honest,
don't. He
and
doesn't deserve it. Like this title is it's obscene. Like I can't even believe. Like can't imagine what the hell was going through his mind.
yeah.
And
Sorry. I'm gonna keep
yeah,
cutting you off here. I watch them. I always watch them just to see what their perspective is, and then try to get an understanding like as to like why they would even think this is right. And then if I watch it and at the end of it I'm truly like, wow, this is terrible, then it's like peace. Like this has got to go. I can't be having this in my life. Just leave it.
all right. I'll watch it.
I always try my best not to close myself off completely. I at least want to like hear what's going on the other side, just to see. Maybe I don't have all the information. Maybe they do, and like sometimes I see things and I'm like, okay, like this is fair, but at the end of the day, like it's clearly like there's so much downside to this. It's just not the way to go.
Yeah. Um. Okay. What else we got here?
Sorry, one question I'm gonna ask you: the protests and stuff like that. It seems like there's not nearly as much stuff going on in Toronto as there are other cities, and maybe that's just because I'm not from Toronto, so I don't have as many people on my like social media that are from here and attending and stuff like that. But I haven't seen too much of it. I think it's not been on the news.
I mean, I've been trying to. I don't know. I feel like social media. Like I've been. I've always like. It's been a constant battle for me and a lot of people. So I don't know. I've been trying to. I don't know. I don't know how to say it, but like I've been trying to think about. Like I don't want to turn away from difficult stuff, but at the same point, I'm trying to think through like how to. Okay, one thing I'll say is I was listening to. It was one of the leaders at our work. There was a session on like coping with change or something.
Okay.
Um, and she said someone asked about like how do you keep your like mental health like good when there's like so much difficult stuff to look at in the news. And she said like she essentially said like you got to turn away to something. So she said like the George Floyd video, like I haven't watched it because I knew it was going to make me super upset. But she went on to say like that doesn't mean like you're turning away from racism and stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm trying to think about like if you're not exposing yourself to it to some degree, like then you're not fully understanding like what's going on. So I guess I've been on a bit of a tangent there, but I thought of it because you asked me like, what are your thoughts on like not seeing that much protest in Toronto? And I just feel like I think I've turned away from like following these protests like super super in depth because it's like disturbing. but at the same point, am I like, ideally I'd be educated on it a bit more, maybe.
I think you can still do a good job of like staying like commercially aware and knowing like what kind of things are happening that are like really pressing, and then doing your best to do your own research and understand these issues, um, and like not opening yourself up to all of the social posts and all of the extra stuff that happens. It can be fine because it can be like a little bit um, overwhelming and like stressful, and like if you've got other things that are like going on in your life, and everyone does have their own things that are going on, it could take a lot of your energy. It's hard sometimes to balance all these things. So I think it's fair. But I mean, if you do see that there's issues going on, then try not to block it up completely. At least try to
Yeah.
know
So like Toronto did have it had one protest within the past few days, right?
I think that they had. I was so the way I checked was um, so through Snapchat, SnapMap. I've like never even used Snapchat myself, um, but like you can open up like a map on Snapchat, and then it shows like heat waves, and like wherever there's like the heat is like where there's like a lot of people, and you can click in and you can view stories. So there was a couple stories yesterday over by like Yonge and Dundas. People were protesting and stuff like that, which was good to see. But like I was surprised. I would think because like I mean Toronto is so much bigger in terms of population and density than Ottawa. And Ottawa seems like just strictly from the photos and posts and stuff I saw, like it was a lot more people attending. So I don't know if that's to say like what kind of people are living in Toronto, or maybe it just didn't necessarily gain us much traction, or maybe I'm just looking in all the wrong places. But that was my view.
I think thinking about it now more, maybe I'll try to attend uh the next protest if there is one in Toronto, just to kind of like get a little bit more educated on what's going on and like be
Yeah,
aware.
I think it's definitely good to show your support too. I think another part as to why I like actually didn't end up committing to going is because not a lot of people that I know in Toronto were going, and like I think it's a lot easier to go to these things when you have support and people that are close to you that are willing to go. So if you're actually up for going, then let me know and you can show up.
Cool.
Trying to see what other thing. Oh, okay, I want to talk about this one because this one was like I saw and I was so like I was actually like this one hurt me the most. I think like I was actually like hurt about this one. Um,
Do you want me to
so
share the video? Or is that
no,
what you meant or no?
no. I'm just gonna like I'm gonna talk about it now. So the
Okay.
Ahmaud Arbery, like the guy that was shot by the two people. One of them was like a former police officer. Did you have you heard of that yet?
I don't know the story. I've heard the name. I've
Okay.
heard, yeah.
Well, he was just going through a run in his neighborhood, and he was being followed by these two guys
Oh, I
who,
do know this. I've seen the video. Yeah.
yeah, one of them was a former police officer, and anyways, they shot and they killed this guy. Um, so
That
that
was super
happened.
disturbing. That was really, really disturbing, that
Yeah,
video.
messed up. So that happened, and then I was just on Facebook, like just doing whatever, and then I'm scrolling, and then I see a video of the same guy, Ahmad, like years, like it's like, oh, this video has just surfaced online. It's an interaction between him and a police officer from like like years ago. And he's just like sitting on the hood of his car, like literally just him sitting on the hood of his car, not talking to anyone. Nobody's near. On like a park, like you can see a park in the back. There's a train tracks. No one is in sight. Broad daylight. He's on his own. Cop comes up to him and he starts pressing him, asking him all these questions, and he unfortunately just kind of reacts in a way that some people might deem as like erratic or like so it like it just it I was offended and I was hurt because it's like they're sharing this video after this guy has died to try and paint a picture and make him seem like he's this person that's always in trouble and always like having these interactions with the cops and like this, that, and the fourth. But like the way that he responded to this certain um, instance with the police officer was completely necessary because he wasn't doing anything. It's like if someone just comes and starts pressing you on a bunch of things and you're just literally hanging out in the park and you're clearly like he's being um, detained or questioned or whatever because of the color of his skin, and it's just like that implicit bias of, well, you must be up to no good. Let's see what's going on here. You hear him in the video, he's saying, man, I work fucking 6 days a week. This is my one day off. I came to the park to chill. Can you just like leave me alone? Like, what do you want? But it's like the fact that somebody had the audacity to share that after this guy died the way he did, just to like skew people's perception that don't put a lot of thought into things. That's
Messed up.
yeah, that I saw that and I thought that was not right. That didn't sit well with me. And then okay, so now on uh, a brighter note here, or not even a brighter note, this made me think about, imagine when we get to the point, and we're kind of there now, when you can like skew videos and like put certain people's faces in videos and paint them out to be this certain person. Like that's what that made me think about. But yeah, anyways, that's a whole other.
Was that on a brighter note?
That's not really on a brighter note, but that's just something that could happen.
What else you write? Video of person being arrested and told a supervisor is coming,
Yeah,
then beat up.
that was one. I see, and this is like, remember how you were just saying you haven't been as active on social media because uh, whether we like it or not, seeing all of these posts can be like, it's hard, like it's you know, it's a lot to take in. It can be overwhelming, uncomfortable, sometimes stressful.
Yeah.
I'm thinking now like maybe I need to just like chill because it's a lot to take in sometimes. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's floating around, a lot of stuff. Um, and I'm older, so I can only imagine the little kids that are seeing this and they're like, what the hell? This
Yeah.
is right now. So anyways, where I'm going with this, and this one I like threw me off a bit too, is this guy was being detained for speeding, and then he's clearly like he's just hands or like not behind his back, they're in front of him. He's like, sorry, and then the officer's like, put your hands behind your back, I'm cuffing you, you're speeding. And he's like, what? Like you're arresting me for speeding? Like I should get a ticket. What are you talking about? And he's not doing it. So he's like, he's not, because he can't fathom the fact that he's being arrested for speeding because that makes zero sense.
Yeah.
So he's like, call your supervisor. I want your supervisor. And he's at this point, like he's not giving up. He's not gonna just be arrested because that's him giving
Doesn't
up.
deserve to be.
Yeah, he doesn't deserve to be, and I agree with that completely. Why would you? So the officer sees it as persistent, and like maybe he sees him as a threat because maybe this guy could handle him if needed be. So he's like, call your supervisor. Call your supervisor. Supervisor comes, and you can see the relief on this guy, like the guy who's being detained face. Like you can see the relief. He's like, oh, he's like, thank God. He's like, hey, you need to talk to this guy. The supervisor comes, takes him by the neck, smashes his head against the back of the car, and then throws him on the ground. Like and it escalates. Could you imagine that? Like emotional roller coaster you're going through, and your wife is recording the whole thing. You think you're about to be saved by someone who's like can view this without any bias and as a supervisor because he deserves to be, and then he comes and slams you without knowing what the hell's going on. That doesn't make sense.
Crazy.
So yeah, that's another video that like threw me off.
What's the online gaming gamer tags? Are there racist? Oh, I'm sure there are racist gamer tags and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot. But this is a good one. I like the approach that they took with this. Activision took with this. So they postponed the launch of like the newest season other Call of Duty.
Oh yeah, we were talking about this.
Yeah, so like some people were obviously like super hurt about that, and then some people were like, "Oh, like this is great, like good," like just that awareness and like people that wouldn't necessarily like know that kind of stuff is going on now are forced to know that it's a reality and it's happening. They've even got it in game. Like I was playing last night, and you turn on your game, and like at the loading screen, it shows like a nice like paragraph that they shared on the situation, their view, and like ended with Black Lives Matter. Anyways, um, I myself and like I'm sure hundreds of thousands of other people commented as well, saying like, okay, like that's one issue, but one way you could take action is by monitoring the gamer tags that people are able to choose in the game, because there's 150 people in a lobby at a time, and I would say at any given time at least 10 of those gamer tags are like offside. And when I say offside, I mean like offside, and not only in relation to like black people, it's like
All sorts of stuff. Yeah.
all sorts of crazy shit you see. Even people were responding with like photos of people in lobbies that day who had like went like took it upon themselves to change their gamer tag to like fuck George Floyd and like that's
It's
crazy.
messed up. People, I guess people looking for attention,
Yeah.
which is twisted. I don't understand. But
Yeah.
so is there anything you think you can do better off the top of your head, or direct changes you think people around you can make? Was that a question you had for me?
Uh yeah, but I think we kind of touched on that already. And just I think I think just understanding and then knowing what areas you drop the ball on and then just doing your best to make those little changes on a day-to-day basis. And it might not, impact thousands of people, but it'll at least help a couple that might have
Yeah,
opposing views. So I think that that's the best. So just take ownership of the stuff that you can actually.
I can't hear you as well.
Oh, sorry. Just take ownership of the stuff that you can actually influence. You don't need to. Obviously, it's great to go above and beyond and try to impact thousands of people, but I think it's necessary to just do what you can.
Yeah. Uh, anything you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
I think we covered quite the grounds. I feel like this may or may not be the longest episode to date.
It's up there. I think it is number 2.
It's number two. Okay,
Yeah.
good. It's deserving. Hopefully, a lot of people listen in.
Yeah. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, no worries. Anytime, man. It's good that you took the time and you had that on your agenda of actual topics to cover. So, kudos to you.
Cool.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Adios.
Until next time.
Later.
See ya.